Hey there YouTube, AJ here, and I need a shelf. So in this corner of my office, I have all my Tiki kind of skateboards and stuff. It's kind of calling it my Tiki corner. And down here in the bottom in those boxes, I have a whole bunch of Tiki mugs that I need to get out and displayed. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to build a shelf to fit in that area. So I want it to be a very specific size. Therefore, I can't just run to IKEA and buy something. So I'm gonna make it myself. All right, so I've got my basic design in mind for this shelf and made up these detail plans here. As you can see, I don't really go into a lot of planning on these kind of projects. Basically, I just took and I have an available space to build this shelf in, and then I'll figure out the rest as I go. In my rebar stash over here, I got a bunch of scrap rebar. I thought I had a couple of 10-foot pieces, but I don't. So I have to rethink what I'm gonna use for the sides. I need almost 10 foot around, and I've got the longest pieces I have are 5-foot pieces. So I'm going to build the sides out of 2 pieces that I can get out of each of the 5-foot pieces, and then weld them together, which is fine because this whole project is supposed to help me relearn to weld. And then I've got this stack of 2x4s here. I'm going to cut these down into strips and use these to make my shelves. I actually bought this stack of 2x4s for a ridiculously low sum of money off of the cold cart at Lowe's. So, I mean, I forget how many is theirs, but it's like $100 worth of wood for like 10 bucks. So it was pretty awesome. But the first thing we need to do is get out our straight sections of rebar. And we're going to clean these up to start with so we can see our marks on it before we start bending them. Okay, so I got these 4 pieces to make my outer frame with. They're cleaned up now, or at least clean enough for where we're going at this point. I used my 4.5-inch grinder with a wire knotted wheel. This wheel's getting pretty worn. Starting to throw off pieces of wire, so that's why it's important. Always remember to wear your safety glasses. Hearing protection with this thing because it's loud too. Anyway, so now it's time to mark these up and start bending. Start with the 2 longest pieces. Those are going to be our front pieces. They're not much longer, just a tiny bit, but it's enough to matter.
Because I want the welds to be in the back of the cabinet, I'm going to bend these in a specific way where my welds are in the back and the bottom. So I'm going to leave 3 inches to come up the back side, 6 inches across the top, then slope down.
And this doesn't have to be exact because I'm kind of building this more as an art project. The key thing here is to make sure both sides are as close to the same as possible. Other than that, I mean, I got a little bit of room and give in the exact dimensions I'm going with. So normally I wouldn't try to bend 2 pieces together, but these two, this is going to be the break that creates the angle of the front of the shelf, and I want it to be as close as possible to the identical. So what I'm doing here is I'm clamping the 2 pieces together. I'm going to be using this piece of pipe to slide up to my mark and then bend the 2 pipes, the 2 pieces of rebar together at the same time. Hopefully I will end up having them be identical at that point. And then the other angles are easier because they're all going to be 90 degrees. So I should be able to get those to match without doing this kind of work. Let's heat it up and get to bending. So I went back and tweaked the top. So now I've got 2 pretty much matching sides. I did decide to instead of bending it flat on top here at this corner, I decided to just bend this corner in to match. That's still hot, I don't want to touch it. So I bent this corner in to match to give the top edge just a little bit of slope. And that was just because I liked it better. Once I saw it all laying out, I liked a little bit of slope on there, and I decided to keep it. So, happy mistake. So now it's ready to cut those back L pieces to the right lengths to match the fronts. Okay, so there you have both sides. You can see how this one's not quite matched up for the heat. It's got a little twist to it. Same up there, right there. We'll take that twist out when we go to weld them together. That's no big deal. Next, I gotta cut a bunch of side-to-side supports, or front to left to right supports. Okay, so I've gotten the ends of all the pieces I need to join together, chamfered down to where it creates a V where they meet to get a better weld penetration and a better weld. Lord knows I'm going to need every bit of help I can get. All right, well, this sucks. Looks like this project's going to get delayed again. I haven't used my welder in quite some time, like I said, and got everything all set up here to get going. And then I find out that during the move down to Charlotte from Ohio, looks like the switch on my welder torch handle got broke, and I didn't know that. So yeah, here's just a whole lot of me wasting time to find out I can't do what I wanted to do. All right, I gotta be careful here because some of these joints are still hot, but these are gonna be the sides of my shelf. And I was getting better as I went with the welding. I'm still not good, and I'll probably have to do a little more dressing up on these. I'm not a good welder, but I'm a good grinder, so I'll get it figured out. I'm gonna take and heat up the bottom of these, one about right here, one about right here on both sides, and then I'm gonna hammer that a flat spot into that I can drill and tap for an adjustable foot. Two things I really need: an anvil and a real oxygen acetylene torch setup again. So I did just heat that up, hammer a flat spot in it that I can drill and tap. Now I gotta do that 3 more times. I wouldn't say I'm proud of any of these welds. I have some better than others, some that are absolute garbage. But it is together in one cohesive piece now. All right, so it's fairly sturdy. Yeah, I had a couple of welds that were pretty nasty. I'll probably do a little more dressing on this one here. Looks like I got a place I want to clean up. So there's still some cleanup I need to do. I'm ready to move on though now. The next step would be I got to put in my crossbars here for my shelves. However, because I don't have my shelves like exactly fit yet, and I don't know the exact height I need, and because I just want to minimize the work, I'm going to go ahead and now take a break from the metal fab, and I'm going to come over here to this big pile of 2x4s, and I'm going to turn those into shelves. All right, so hopefully you saw how I ripped all these 2x4s that I bought off the Cold Cart. I had like $100 worth of 2x4s I got for 10 bucks basically, or $12, something like that, something ridiculous. So now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you how I put together my shelves here. I ripped down these strips of 2x4, 3/8 inches thick, and then the thicker parts I made my bottom braces out of. So these shelves will be nice and sturdy and will hold up to plenty of weight. So what I'm gonna do is smear on some glue to the bottom supports. So just put these boards on, and then the edge boards, or the rounded edge of the 2x4s, so the front edge and the back edge of each shelf will have a round to it, so that kind of minimizes the sanding work I got to do.
That should get us in the ballpark. That's this one is too this way. Take that loose and then we'll tap it in place. This board needs to go smidge over.
Use my Harbor Freight Central Pneumatic brad nailer, hashtag not sponsored, but Harbor Freight. These are your clamps, this is your thing. I mean, most of my stuff is Harbor Freight, so you feel free to sponsor me. And if you've ever thought about getting a Harbor Freight brad nailer, this thing's been awesome. I use the heck out of it. There you have it. You have a shelf. All right, so I got all my shelves made. There's a stack over there. And then the bottom one, it's gonna sit on these supports here, so that's no big deal. I don't have to do anything there. The upper shelves though, however, I still have to put in a cross piece to support them. And because the wood fits between and there's angles involved, I wanted to get them made before I tried to find out exactly how long I needed, and then cut my pieces. So that's what I'm gonna do now, is figure out all these lengths, cut my pieces, weld those in. All right, at this point, it is officially a shelf. It's got a long ways to go yet. Cutting and fitting these two pieces took quite a while, cleaning them up. I'll spare you that for the next two shelves. I'm not gonna record that, but yeah, that's the next step. All right, so it is a shelf now. It's got a little side-to-side movement in it. I don't like. Gonna address this, just a little bit of side-to-side play in it. So we're gonna see if we can add some support somewhere to see if we can take that out of it. All right, so I got what I'm planning on doing here. Got a couple of bit pieces. I'm gonna take one and put it in there at the front edge. And I'm gonna bend one to fit in here under this one. Cut them to fit. That should give me a little more side-to-side stability. Don't really have to heat it since I'm putting just gentle bends in it. Trying to get it halfway symmetrical is the trick. Weld that in there. Good. I'm just just eyeballing this. Guess I could get out all the way to the corner. Alright, so the battery died while I was bending that up and getting it fit. But you see the basic arch I'm putting in here. I've got it clamped into place, cut. I went ahead and cleaned everything up off camera. But I got it clamped in, this one clamped into place and cut. I'm going to go ahead and weld that one in, and then I'll do the same with this one down here on the front edge. And that'll be our lateral support for the shelf. Okay, so the welds look like crap, but they're welded in there. I got a lot of grinding to do. It definitely took the side-to-side flex out of it, so I'm happy there. It's good and sturdy now. Granted, I'm only like 160, but 165-ish. So that's good. What's left to do is dress up those welds, drill the holes for my feet. Let's get to it. Okay, so I got these 4 skateboard wheels, old used ones, that I'm going to use for my feet. Got these bolts to put through them, nuts to tighten them down, and I'll cut a slot in the top here so I can adjust them from the top of the floor, from the top of the floor stand. The bolt heads stick out just a little bit past the surface. I'm going to grind these down a bit so it'll actually sit on the wheel and not just the bolt head. But before that, I do that, I need to come over here and I need to thread these holes I made in the bottoms so that bolt will thread into it. And to do that, I'm going to be using a Tappa McBob, which basically cuts threads in there. Taps, you go until they start to get hard and back them off to break the chip. Do it again. Do it again.
Keep going that process until you get through. It's starting to come through already. There we go.
I've got it on just bolts for now for feet, but you can see how those work. It's threaded through there. So I'm going to leave it on that for now for a couple reasons. One, the bolts I grinded off are still really hot. I don't want to touch them yet. And two, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to finish them. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the whole steel structure with a wire wheel, clean that all up, and then the wood, I'm going to take the shelves, do just a quick sanding on them, knock down some rough edges, and then I'm going to take my MAP gas torch and I'm going to use fire to seal the wood and give it some distressed look and some character. And then I'll go over, once I've done that, I'll go over the wood with coat of polyurethane, put it all together, Call it good. Okay, so here's the frame, all clear coated. Over here are my shelves. I know the camera shut down, so I don't know how much of the process you saw, but I basically just did a quick sand on the wood and then used my MAP gas torch to heat seal it with fire and just burn off the fuzzies and put in a little distress and pattern to it. And then I just polyurethane it, so that's all wet and drying right now. Clear coat's drying on this. And then here are my feet, where I've taken and bolted I've ground the head down of this bolt so it wouldn't stick, so it would still sit level. And then bolted it together. And yes, the wheel still turns. So anyway, and then I cut these to length, and then I cut a slot in the end of them. So I will thread these up through the bottom of the floor stand, and then I will be able to take a screwdriver and go through the top and adjust the stand height and to where it sits nice and sturdy and level. I like reusing the old skateboard wheels. It gives them another life. I got the shelf set up. My leveling feet did work great. They absolutely work perfectly as planned. I love it. My little arch crossbar in the front, I like it. Got plenty of room on all my shelves. I got other stuff to put on there. I will be rearranging for a while, putting more stuff on, taking stuff off, getting it to where I want it to be. My big arch support in the back is kind of hidden. I guess that's okay. Can't tell if you can really see the clear coat finish on the rebar, but it kind of darkened the metal from the shiny silver and made it kind of wet looking, which it really looks good in person. I don't know if that'll come through in any of the lighted pictures here or not, but it really does look good. I like it. So it almost looks like it's wet to touch. So overall, I've got probably, I don't know, maybe 16 to 20 hours of labor in the entire project, and very little money. Probably if you really add up the costs, it's less than $5, because I used 3 of my 12-foot 2x4s that I bought off a cold cart, that the whole pile cost me like $10. So that was nothing. The rebar was literally trash that I scavenged. It was all rusty and muddy, and I had to clean it up. So, you know, that was labor intensive, but the metal was free. And I had to buy a few bolts. That's it. Bolts to attach my wheel feet, whichever. Anyway, yeah, so a lot of work, 16, 20 hours of labor, and $5 of cost. and I think I got a pretty nice looking shelf. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Now I did leave like the marks where there was red paint on the wood. I just kind of let that be part of the character. As I went along, my welding skills did improve. I still got a long way to go. I'm going to practice a lot more before I start welding on my motorcycle or my hot rod. So I have some issues that I need to overcome there, but I think I'll get there pretty quick. I guess the point of my whole project is you know, with a little effort and doesn't have to be a lot of outlay, you can make yourself some decent looking furniture that specifically fits the space you have. I don't know, I hope maybe I've inspired someone to try some kind of project like this themselves, or I do know that I do have a lot of the tools already, which, you know, if you don't have tools and things, I guess that can make it a little harder. But I've always looked at it as, I'd rather buy a bunch of tools and learn how to do something than just go buy something. If I can get it for less or, you know, the same amount of money by buying tools, I like to do that. And then I also get to kind of throw an artistic spin on what I'm building and make it fit exactly what I want. So I like it. I hope you do too. Hope you are enjoying some of my channel. Like, comment, subscribe. If you got any questions about anything I did, hit me up in the comments and I will most likely answer. I try to answer all my comments and questions. So other than that, until next time, YouTube, take it easy.